The Silent River. In a small village nestled between mountains, there lived a young man named Aidan. He was known for his restless mind, constantly swirling with thoughts, worries, and emotions that seemed impossible to control. Every day he found himself swept away by the currents of his thoughts, whether they were fears of the future, regrets about the past, or anxieties about what others thought of him. One evening, as the sun began to dip behind the mountains, Aidan walked by the village river. The water flowed gently, quietly, in a peaceful rhythm. He had walked this path countless times before, but today something was different. His mind, as usual, was a storm, yet there was something in the way the river moved that made him pause. Why does the river flow so calmly while my thoughts race and crash against each other? Aidan wondered aloud. An old woman seated by the riverbank heard his words. She had seen many seasons pass in this village, and her eyes carried the wisdom of someone who had lived with intention. She smiled softly and motioned for Aidan to come sit beside her. "You ask a good question," she said, "but the answer lies not in the river itself, but in how we meet the river." Aidan, curious but unsure, sat beside her. "I don't understand. How can I make my mind more like the river?" The old woman smiled again, this time a touch of mystery in her gaze. "The river doesn't try to control its flow, it simply is. The key is to observe without judgment, to be present with each moment as it arrives, without trying to change or force anything." Aidan frowned, his mind already filling with doubt. "But my thoughts, they're like a wild storm. How can I just let them be?" The old woman closed her eyes for a moment, then gently pointed to the river. "The river has learned to flow naturally because it doesn't fight its own nature. When it rains, it swells. When the sun shines, it slows. It moves with what is, not against it. Your thoughts, too, can be like the river. When you notice them, instead of chasing or fighting them, simply observe them. Let them flow by." Aidan nodded, trying to understand. "So you mean I should just sit back and let my thoughts come and go without reacting?" "Exactly," she replied. "But this takes practice. Just like the river takes time to carve its path through the land, it takes time for the mind to learn this. You must remember to practice every day, not just once, but in every moment." The old woman then handed him a small stone, smooth and round. "This is a symbol," she said. "Whenever you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts, hold this stone. Feel its weight, its texture. Let it remind you to come back to the present moment, to your breath, to the rhythm of life that is always flowing, even when your mind is busy." Aidan felt the stone in his hand, its cool surface grounding him in that moment. He could sense the importance of what the old woman had said, but a part of him still felt uncertain. Could something as simple as remembering to be present really help him manage the storm inside? The old woman seemed to read his thoughts. "Mindfulness isn't a cure for all your struggles, but it is a tool you must practice using every day. With time, you will find that the storm inside you will calm, just like the river, and that the space between your thoughts will grow wider." For the next few weeks, Aidan practiced. He took the stone with him wherever he went. When he felt his thoughts becoming overwhelming, he would hold it, close his eyes for a moment, and simply focus on his breath. The practice felt strange at first, like trying to hold back a tidal wave with a small pebble. But little by little, he began to notice something. The storm inside him didn't disappear, but the moments of stillness grew longer. He could feel the tension in his chest ease when he let his thoughts flow by like the river, instead of clinging to them or trying to stop them. Sometimes he would sit by the river, watching the water, and remember what the old woman had said. He would let his thoughts come and go, not trying to control them, but simply being with them. One afternoon, as he sat by the river again, he realized something. His mind wasn't as chaotic as it had once been. The thoughts were still there, but they no longer ruled him. He could breathe without the tightness in his chest. And for the first time, he truly understood what the woman meant. It was not about controlling his thoughts, but about learning to coexist with them, just as the river coexisted with the land, the rain, and the sun. Aiden had learned the art of remembering, to remember to be present, to practice mindfulness, and to allow his thoughts and emotions to flow without judgment. The practice wasn't perfect, and there were days when the storm returned stronger than before, but Aiden knew that just like the river, he could always return to the stillness, to the flow, and to the peace that came from simply being. And so with each passing day, Aiden practiced remembering to breathe, to feel, and to let his thoughts and emotions move freely like the silent river beside him. By Kim Rush.